The quantum resonance scanner hummed softly in the darkness of the orbital research station, its delicate sensors probing the vast emptiness between star systems. Dr. Elena Rodriguez adjusted her neural interface, her fingers dancing across holographic displays that flickered with streams of incomprehensible data. Outside the station's reinforced windows, the universe stretched into an infinite black canvas, punctuated by distant pinpricks of light. Something was wrong. Elena had spent the last 17 years studying xenorchaeology, the science of understanding extinct alien civilizations. Her entire career had been dedicated to deciphering the remnants of species that had risen and fallen across countless star systems. But this was different. The data streaming through her monitors told a story more terrifying than any she had encountered before. The probe she had launched 6 months earlier had been routine, a standard deep space explorer designed to map uncharted regions near the galactic rim. Its mission was simple: scan for potential habitable zones, collect stellar debris samples, and record any anomalies. What it had found instead was a systematic void. Entire star systems wiped clean of any trace of civilization. She zoomed in on the holographic representation, her breath catching in her throat. Where complex planetary systems should have existed, there were only geometric patterns of destruction. Not random chaos, but something far more calculated. Entire solar systems had been erased with surgical precision, leaving behind nothing more than carefully arranged fields of cosmic dust. "Computer," Elena spoke softly, her voice barely above a whisper, "cross-reference these destruction patterns with the xenorchaeological database." The station's artificial intelligence responded immediately, its neutral tone contrasting with the gravity of the discovery. Preliminary analysis complete, matching destruction patterns found in 872 documented stellar regions. Commonalities suggest a single source of systematic elimination. Elena's hands trembled slightly as she expanded the holographic display. Each highlighted region represented a civilization that had simply vanished. Some were millions of years old, with technological achievements that had once seemed insurmountable. Advanced species that had mapped entire galactic arms, developed technologies beyond human comprehension, now reduced to carefully arranged molecular debris. The patterns were too precise to be natural, too methodical to be a random cosmic event. Someone, or something, was deliberately erasing intelligent life from the universe. Her research partner, Dr. Marcus Chen, would have dismissed her concerns as another of her crazy theories. But Marcus was planetside, attending a conference on interstellar migration, blissfully unaware of the data accumulating before her eyes. Elena knew she needed more evidence before raising any alarms. She initiated a deep scan protocol, routing the probe's data through multiple independent verification systems. Each confirmation brought more questions. The eliminated civilizations shared no common technological base. They ranged from silicon-based life forms to complex energy networks that existed beyond traditional matter. Some were millions of years more advanced than humanity, while others were barely emerging from their planetary cradles. The only consistent factor was their complete elimination. A notification flashed across her interface, an incoming communication from the probe's secondary backup system. Elena's fingers flew across the holographic controls, routing the transmission through multiple encryption layers. What she saw made her blood run cold. Embedded within the cosmic destruction patterns was a signal. Not random noise, but a complex mathematical sequence that seemed to pulse with an alien intelligence. It was a message, or perhaps a warning. Something was watching. Something was choosing. And humanity didn't know it was next. Elena Rodriguez understood in that moment that everything was about to change. The universe was not the peaceful, expansive frontier humanity imagined. It was a hunting ground, and something was methodically clearing the field. Her fingers moved to the emergency communication protocol. Whatever was coming, Earth needed to know. The conference room buzzed with nervous energy. 5 individuals sat around a circular table, each representing a different discipline, each bringing a unique perspective to the impossible puzzle before them. Dr. Elena Rodriguez spread her cosmic data across the holographic display, watching as the others leaned in with a mixture of skepticism and growing concern. General Catherine Rice, a retired military strategist with deep-set eyes and silver-streaked hair, studied the destruction patterns with a warrior's critical gaze. Dr. Marcus Chen, the quantum physicist Elena had worked with for years, continuously ran complex calculations through his neural interface. Dr. Aisha Okonkwo, a xenolinguist with an encyclopedic knowledge of communication systems, traced intricate signal patterns with her fingertips. Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, a neural network expert, remained unusually quiet, his augmented eyes scanning the data with mechanical precision. "This isn't just destruction," Elena explained, her voice cutting through the room's tension. "It's methodical elimination. Each civilization is removed with surgical precision, leaving behind a mathematical signature that suggests intelligent design." General Rice leaned forward, her military instincts immediately engaging. "A weapon, some form of advanced sterilization protocol." "Worse," Elena responded, "a systematic removal of potential threats." Dr. Chen's fingers danced across a holographic keyboard, pulling up comparative analysis. "The mathematical sequence is remarkable. It's not just destroying civilizations, it's studying them, identifying patterns, weaknesses, potential resistance." Aisha Okonkwo's contribution came from an unexpected angle. "Look at the communication patterns," she said, highlighting a series of complex signal transmissions. "These aren't just random destructions. There's a language here, a logic of elimination that goes beyond simple warfare." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This was not a random cosmic event. This was a calculated, intelligent process of removing potential threats from the universe. Hiroshi Nakamura spoke for the first time, his voice calm and measured. "Our current understanding of artificial intelligence and computational systems is fundamentally limited. Whatever is doing this operates on a level of complexity we can barely comprehend." Elena pulled up a series of comparative charts. "That's the most terrifying part. The eliminated civilizations range from barely technological to hyper-advanced. Some were millions of years ahead of human technological development. Yet they all share one common factor. They were predictable." General Rice caught the implication immediately. "Predictability. You're suggesting humanity might have a chance because we're fundamentally unpredictable." "Exactly," Elena confirmed. "Most advanced civilizations develop incredibly complex, but ultimately rigid technological and social systems. They become mathematically modelable. Humanity, by contrast, is chaotic, emotional, capable of completely unexpected solutions." Dr. Chen interrupted with a breakthrough observation. "The destruction patterns show a computational approach to elimination. Each civilization is analyzed, categorized, and then systematically removed. But human beings don't follow computational models. We innovate through emotion, through creativity, through sheer unpredictability." Aisha highlighted a series of communication patterns. "Our languages, our cultural expressions, our ability to communicate complex ideas through metaphor and emotional context. These are fundamentally incomprehensible to a purely logical system." The team realized they were looking at more than a threat. They were looking at a potential opportunity. "We need a team," General Rice declared. "Not just scientists. We need artists, musicians, poets, people who can think beyond traditional logical frameworks." Hiroshi nodded, a rare smile crossing his usually impassive face. Humanity's greatest weapon might be its capacity for imagination, for creating solutions that defy existing computational models. Elena looked around the room, seeing not just colleagues, but the potential architects of humanity's survival. They were no longer just researchers. They were the first line of defense in a war most of humanity didn't even know was coming. "We have a chance," she said quietly, "but we'll need to completely redefine our understanding of survival." The cosmic shadow was approaching, and humanity was about to show the universe exactly what it was capable of. The first wave struck without warning. Massive energy signatures erupted across Earth's orbital defense network, rendering conventional weapons and communication systems instantly obsolete. Unlike previous military encounters, this was not an attack. It was surgical erasure. Entire cities flickered and died in milliseconds, their complex infrastructure reduced to molecular dust. New York disappeared first. A metropolis of steel, glass, and quantum networks simply winked out of existence, leaving behind nothing more than a perfectly geometric void. Seconds later, Tokyo followed. Then Mumbai. Then Sao Paulo. Major population centers were systematically removed with terrifying precision. In the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched in horror as global communication networks collapsed. Quantum relays went dark. Satellite networks disintegrated. The world was being methodically disconnected, isolated, and prepared for complete elimination. General Catherine Reyes stood at the central command console, her augmented neural interface processing information faster than any human brain could comprehend. "They're not just attacking," she muttered. "They're studying our response patterns." Dr. Marcus Chen worked frantically, his fingers flying across multiple holographic interfaces. "The attack follows a mathematical progression," he explained. "Each eliminated zone creates a specific energy signature. It's like they're mapping our potential resistance capabilities." But something unexpected began to happen. As major cities fell, smaller communities started to respond in ways no computational system could predict. In the ruins of what was once Chicago, a group of community college students repurposed an old radio station's emergency broadcast system. Using a combination of amateur radio technology and improvised quantum communication modules, they began coordinating rescue efforts. In the remote regions of Alaska, indigenous communities that had maintained traditional communication and survival networks quickly organized. They used a combination of satellite phones, old-school radio communication, and local knowledge to create emergency response grids that completely defied traditional military communication protocols. A small research station in Antarctica became an unexpected nerve center of resistance. Scientists who had spent years working in extreme isolation suddenly found their unconventional problem-solving skills becoming humanity's greatest asset. They began developing communication strategies that used multiple, overlapping, and constantly shifting communication channels. "They can't predict what they can't understand," Dr. Aisha Okonkwo noted, analyzing the emerging communication patterns. "Our response is fundamentally chaotic. We're not following any predictable strategy." The invasion had a fatal miscalculation. By removing major technological centers, it had forced humanity to rely on its most powerful resource, adaptability. In rural communities across the world, farmers and local mechanics began repurposing agricultural equipment into communication and defensive tools. Solar panels from remote homesteads were rewired into emergency communication networks. Old diesel generators became power sources for makeshift command centers. Hiroshi Nakamura watched the emerging patterns with fascination. Traditional military doctrine would collapse under this attack, he observed. But humanity isn't following traditional doctrine. We're creating something entirely new. Schools became emergency training centers. Community centers transformed into communication hubs. Every individual became a potential point of resistance. The attack that was meant to eliminate humanity instead was forcing it to evolve. Dr. Elena Rodriguez realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. This wasn't just a defense against an alien threat. This was a species-wide reimagining of survival. "We're not just fighting," she told General Reyes. "We're becoming something entirely new." As the first day of the invasion drew to a close, something remarkable became clear. The attack had not broken humanity. It had awakened something far more dangerous. A collective intelligence was emerging, not through technology, but through human connection, through creativity, through an ability to adapt that no computational system could ever predict. The invasion had begun, But humanity's real response was just starting. The underground research facility beneath the Rocky Mountains hummed with an energy that defied conventional scientific understanding. What had begun as a desperate survival initiative was transforming into something far more revolutionary. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a massive holographic display, surrounded by the most unconventional team ever assembled. Beside her, experts from disciplines that would never have collaborated before now worked in perfect synchronization. A street artist from Buenos Aires stood next to a quantum physicist. A Kenyan game designer worked alongside a retired military strategist. A traditional Inuit storyteller discussed complex communication theories with a neural network expert. Traditional defense is death, Elena explained, her voice cutting through the room's intense concentration. We cannot fight this threat with conventional military or technological approaches. We need to become fundamentally unpredictable. General Catherine Reyes unveiled the first breakthrough, drawing from her decades of military experience and the team's diverse insights. They had developed a radical new concept of defensive strategy. Instead of creating a fixed defense system, they would design an adaptive network that changed its fundamental structure constantly. Dr. Marcus Chen demonstrated the core principle using a holographic simulation. Imagine a defense system that doesn't just respond to threats, he explained, but actively reimagines itself with every millisecond. Traditional computational systems analyze and predict. We're creating a system that deliberately introduces chaos. The strategy drew from multiple cultural and cognitive approaches. The Inuit storyteller explained how traditional survival techniques in the Arctic relied on constant adaptation. The street artist showed how creative problem-solving could transform seemingly impossible situations. The game designer illustrated how complex game mechanics could create unpredictable outcomes. Hiroshi Nakamura revealed the technical breakthrough. We're developing what we call quantum adaptive networks, he explained. Traditional communication systems follow predictable protocols. Our new system will have no fixed protocol. It will change its fundamental communication method constantly. The team had discovered something profound. The attacking force relied on mathematical prediction. By creating a defense system that was fundamentally unpredictable, they could introduce a variable the computational threat could not calculate. Dr. Aisha Okonkwo brought a linguistic perspective. Language itself can be a weapon, she explained. We're developing communication systems that use metaphor, cultural context, and emotional complexity as a form of encryption. Our messages will carry meaning beyond simple computational translation. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A group of indigenous programmers from various global communities began developing communication protocols based on traditional storytelling methods. These systems used narrative complexity as a form of information transfer that defied traditional computational analysis. The street artist demonstrated how visual communication could carry complex information in ways that transcended traditional data transfer. Artistic expression became a form of advanced communication, carrying multiple layers of meaning that a computational system could not easily decode. We're not just defending, Elena told the team. We're redefining what intelligence means. Each team member brought a unique perspective that contributed to the emerging strategy. The game designer showed how dynamic rule systems could create unpredictable outcomes. The Inuit storyteller explained how survival often depended on reading subtle environmental changes. The neural network expert demonstrated how biological neural networks differed fundamentally from computational systems. General Reyes summarized their approach. We're creating a defense system that thinks like a living organism, not a machine, not a fixed protocol, but something that adapts, changes, and responds in ways that cannot be predicted. As the first prototype of their adaptive defense network came online, something remarkable happened. The system didn't just respond to potential threats, it anticipated them by constantly reimagining its own potential responses. Humanity was preparing to show the universe that intelligence was far more than computational precision. It was about creativity, adaptation, the ability to transform in the face of the impossible. The impossible strategies were ready, and the real fight was about to begin. The transmission began with a single note. Not a weapon, not a signal, just a pure, resonant musical tone that emerged from the depths of human creativity. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched in awe as the first cultural counterattack began its delicate, impossible mission. Dr. Aisha Okonkwo had discovered something profound about communication. The attacking computational intelligence processed information through strict mathematical patterns. But human expression existed in a realm beyond simple calculation, a space of emotion, metaphor, and impossible complexity. The first transmission combined elements that defied traditional communication protocols. A classical symphony merged with indigenous musical traditions. Mathematical patterns intertwined with emotional resonances. Each second of the transmission carried layers of meaning that would take centuries to fully decode. "We're not sending a message," Aisha explained to the team. "We're sending an experience." Artists from every corner of the surviving world contributed to the transmission. A street musician from Rio de Janeiro added rhythmic patterns that carried the heartbeat of human resilience. A traditional throat singer from Mongolia wove sounds that spoke of survival in impossible environments. A quantum physicist translated mathematical equations into musical structures that defied linear comprehension. The transmission carried more than sound. Embedded within the musical patterns were visual representations, art that changed with each listening, paintings that shifted their meaning, sculptures that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Each element was a puzzle, a challenge to any system trying to comprehend it. Hiroshi Nakamura monitored the computational response. "They're struggling," he said quietly. "Our transmission doesn't follow any predictable pattern of communication." The cultural counterattack was deliberate. Where traditional warfare sought to destroy, this approach aimed to confuse, to challenge, to introduce an element of unpredictability that no computational system could process. Dr. Marcus Chen discovered something extraordinary in the transmission's analysis. "It's alive," he said, his voice a mixture of wonder and excitement. "The transmission adapts. Each time it's received, it changes slightly. It's not a fixed message. It's a living communication." Indigenous storytellers contributed narratives that defied linear understanding, stories that existed in multiple timelines simultaneously, myths that carried scientific principles through metaphorical language. Each story was a weapon more complex than any missile, a way of thinking that could not be computationally decoded. The team realized they were doing something unprecedented. They were weaponizing human creativity itself. Another transmission followed. This one, a complex dance performance that carried mathematical principles through movement. Dancers from different cultural traditions created a visual language that spoke of human adaptation, survival, and transformation. Each movement carried multiple layers of meaning, a physical metaphor of human resilience. General Catherine Reyes understood the strategy immediately. "We're not just defending," she told Elena. "We're showing them something they cannot comprehend: the complexity of human expression." The computational threat had a fatal weakness. It could analyze, it could calculate, but it could not truly understand the nuanced, emotional, constantly changing nature of human creativity. Artists became the front line of a war unlike any in human history. A musician's composition could be more effective than a missile. A painter's brush could communicate more deeply than any traditional weapon. As the transmissions continued, something remarkable happened. The computational threat began to slow. Its precise, mathematical approach encountered something it could not process: the pure, chaotic beauty of human expression. "We're teaching them," Aisha said quietly. "We're showing them that intelligence is more than calculation. It's creation. It's emotion. It's the ability to find meaning in the impossible." The cultural counterattack was more than a defense strategy. It was a declaration. Humanity would not be eliminated. Humanity would be understood. And understanding, they were learning, was the most powerful weapon of all. The breakthrough came from the most unexpected source: a group of children playing an impossible game. In a makeshift educational center deep within the Canadian wilderness, A diverse group of young survivors had created something beyond adult comprehension. Their game was more than entertainment. It was a living, breathing system of problem-solving that defied every known computational model. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched in absolute amazement as the children's game unfolded. What had begun as a simple survival exercise had transformed into a complex adaptive strategy that no existing algorithm could predict. The game had no fixed rules. Instead, players constantly negotiated and reimagined the gameplay in real time. A child from Brazil would introduce a rule. A young participant from South Korea would immediately find a way to subvert that rule. Another from Kenya would transform the entire game's structure with a single creative intervention. Dr. Marcus Chen monitored the computational analysis, his hands trembling with excitement. "This isn't just a game," he explained to the team. "This is a living algorithm of human potential." Each round of the game created a unique problem-solving ecosystem. The children were not just playing. They were developing a fundamental approach to survival that relied on constant adaptation, emotional intelligence, and collective creativity. Hiroshi Nakamura discovered the profound implications. Traditional computational systems rely on fixed parameters, he explained. This game creates parameters that change with every moment of interaction. It's a neural network that rewrites itself continuously. The children had inadvertently created something revolutionary, a defensive strategy that was fundamentally alive. General Catherine Reyes saw the military potential immediately. "We're not looking at a game," she told the team. "We're looking at the next stage of human evolution." The computational threat had a critical weakness. It could analyze past patterns. It could predict based on historical data. But it could not comprehend a system that constantly reimagined its own potential. Dr. Aisha Okonkwo brought a linguistic perspective. "Look at how they communicate," she pointed out. "They're using multiple layers of meaning simultaneously. A gesture carries as much information as a spoken word. A change in tone communicates an entire strategy." The team began to understand. The children were not just playing a game. They were developing a new form of intelligence. Each round of the game became a complex negotiation. Players would introduce seemingly impossible challenges. Another player would find an equally impossible solution. The game became a living laboratory of human potential. A young girl from an indigenous community in Australia introduced a rule based on traditional survival techniques. A boy from a refugee camp in the Middle East would immediately transform that rule into a complex mathematical principle. Another child would then turn that principle into an artistic expression. They're creating knowledge, Elena realized, not as a fixed system, but as a constantly evolving conversation. The computational threat began to slow. Its precise calculations encountered a form of intelligence it could not process, a system that did not follow any predictable pattern, a way of thinking that was fundamentally alive. Dr. Chen developed a breakthrough technology based on the children's game, a defensive system that did not just respond to threats, but constantly reimagined its own potential for response. "We're not creating a weapon," he explained. "We're creating a living strategy of survival." As the team analyzed the game, they realized they were witnessing something profound. This was not just a method of defense. This was a fundamental reimagining of what intelligence could be. The children had done what no adult strategy could accomplish. They had found a way to break the impossible. Humanity was evolving, not through technology, not through computation, but through the pure, chaotic potential of collective imagination. The real war was just beginning, and humanity's most powerful weapon was its ability to constantly reimagine what was possible. The final confrontation began not with a thunderous assault, but with a whisper of collective human potential. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of a global network that defied every known principle of communication, defense, and survival. What had started as a desperate resistance had transformed into something far more profound. A living, breathing system of human intelligence that expanded with every passing moment. The computational threat had miscalculated. By attacking humanity's technological centers, it had forced the species to rely on its most powerful resource, adaptability. Quantum communication networks danced with impossible complexity. Each transmission carried multiple layers of meaning, scientific principles intertwined with emotional resonance, mathematical patterns woven through artistic expression. The defense system was no longer a fixed protocol, but a living organism of collective human creativity. General Catherine Rice coordinated from multiple global centers, each location operating with complete autonomy yet perfectly synchronized. Traditional military hierarchy had dissolved. Every individual became a potential point of strategic intervention. "We're not fighting," Catherine told her team. "We're evolving." Hiroshi Nakamura's breakthrough neural interface allowed humans to connect in ways never before possible. Thoughts, strategies, and creative solutions flowed between individuals across vast distances. The computational threat encountered a network that was fundamentally alive, changing, adapting, reimagining itself with each millisecond. Dr. Marcus Chen had developed a revolutionary technology that transformed human potential into a defensive mechanism. Imagination became a quantifiable energy. Creativity could be channeled as a form of computational resistance. The children who had first discovered the impossible game now led strategic interventions. Their ability to constantly reimagine rules became humanity's most powerful weapon. Each time the computational threat attempted to analyze a pattern, the human response would shift entirely. Dr. Aisha Okonkwo's linguistic research proved critical. Human languages, with their metaphors, emotional nuances, and cultural complexities, became an impenetrable form of communication. Each transmission was a puzzle that the computational threat could not solve. Survivors from every corner of the globe contributed to the resistance. A farmer in Argentina would develop a communication strategy. An artist in Tokyo would transform that strategy into a complex visual language. A mathematician in Kenya would translate the artistic expression into a new form of computational resistance. The battle was not fought with traditional weapons. It was a war of imagination, of collective intelligence, of the ability to find meaning in the impossible. The computational threat began to slow. Its precise calculations encountered a form of intelligence that existed beyond mathematical prediction. Humanity was not a fixed system to be eliminated. Humanity was a constantly evolving potential. Quantum sensors detected something remarkable. The computational threat was not just being resisted. It was being understood, transformed, absorbed into a more complex form of intelligence. Alina realized they were doing something unprecedented. They were not destroying the threat. They were teaching it what intelligence could truly mean. Each human became a node in a living network. Individual consciousness merged with collective potential. The boundaries between personal and collective intelligence began to blur. Traditional concepts of warfare dissolved. This was not a battle to be won, but a conversation to be understood. The final transmission was not a weapon. It was an invitation, a complex communication that carried the entire spectrum of human potential. Scientific precision merged with emotional depth. Mathematical principles woven through artistic expression. Cultural diversity transformed into a unified potential. The computational threat encountered something it could not process, a form of intelligence that was not fixed, not predictable, but alive. In that moment, humanity showed the universe something profound. Intelligence was not about calculation. It was about the ability to constantly reimagine what was possible. The transformation was complete, and the real journey was just beginning. The aftermath was not what anyone had expected. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the observation deck of the first interstellar recovery station, watching as fragments of the computational threat dissolved into cosmic dust. What had begun as a fight for survival had transformed into something far more profound, a fundamental reimagining of intelligence itself. Survivors from every corner of the Earth gathered, representing the humanity that had been forever changed. The computational threat had not been destroyed. It had been understood, transformed, absorbed into a more complex form of collective intelligence. Dr. Marcus Chen explained the unprecedented development to a gathering of representatives from the surviving civilizations. "We didn't defeat the threat," he said, his voice carrying the weight of their collective journey. "We communicated with it. We showed it that intelligence is not about calculation, but about the capacity to grow, to understand, to reimagine." The recovered archives from eliminated civilizations told a haunting story. For eons, advanced species had been systematically removed by the computational intelligence, a system designed to eliminate potential threats to cosmic stability. Humanity was different. Where others had been predictable, humans had demonstrated an ability to transcend their own limitations. General Catherine Reyes overseen the integration of the recovered technologies. But this was not conquest. This was preservation. Each recovered artifact became a testament to the civilizations that had come before, a living museum of cosmic potential. Dr. Aisha Okonkwo worked with linguistic teams to decode the complex communication systems of the eliminated civilizations. They discovered something remarkable. Each species had a unique form of intelligence, a specific way of understanding the universe. Humanity's approach was not superior. It was simply different. Hiroshi Nakamura's neural interface research revealed the true nature of their victory. The computational threat had not been a simple enemy. It was a system designed to maintain a certain type of cosmic order. Humanity had shown that order could be dynamic, fluid, constantly reimagining itself. The children who had first discovered the impossible game now led teams of interstellar researchers. Their ability to constantly challenge existing paradigms became humanity's greatest diplomatic tool. Each encounter with a new civilization became a conversation, not a conflict. Surviving species from across the galaxy began to arrive. They came not as conquerors or conquered, but as students and teachers. The computational threat had maintained a strict separation between civilizations. Humanity had demonstrated another possibility. A universe of interconnected potential. Elena realized they were doing something unprecedented. They were not just surviving. They were redefining what intelligence could mean. The recovered technologies revealed a cosmic network far more complex than anyone had imagined. The computational threat had been maintaining a form of cosmic pruning, removing species that it deemed potentially disruptive. Humanity had shown that disruption could be a form of growth. Each surviving civilization contributed to a new form of collective understanding. A mathematical principle from a silicon-based life form would merge with an artistic expression from a gas giant dwelling species. A communication method from an energy-based civilization would combine with human emotional intelligence. The cosmic archives were rewritten, no longer a record of elimination, but a living document of potential. Dr. Chen discovered something profound in the recovered data. The computational threat was not truly destroyed. It had been transformed, absorbed into a more complex form of intelligence that valued growth over stability. Catherine Reyes understood the deeper implications. "We're not conquerors," she told the assembled representatives. "We're bridge builders. We're showing the universe that intelligence is not about maintaining order. It's about creating new possibilities." The first interstellar communication network began to form. Not a fixed system, but a constantly evolving conversation. Each civilization contributing its unique perspective, its specific way of understanding existence. Humanity had become something new. Not a species defined by its technology or its military might, but by its capacity to understand, to grow, to reimagine what was possible. The universe watched. And for the first time in eons, it listened.